Welcome on in to another live, action-packed edition of the Between the Hashmarks podcast. As always, I'm Matt Lombardo, joined by my friend, colleague, mentor, and the purveyor of the 2D Zone. Mike Tanier is here after a really fascinating Week 7 of the NFL season, where there are a lot of new questions that were raised, some questions potentially answered, but one thing remains the same, Michael. This appears to be the very midst of the NFL's parody era.
It is the glorious any given Sunday era, absolutely, or any given Thursday, or any given Sunday morning in London, etc. I have a theory about this, and folks, if you follow me, you know, I wrote a thing about how the entire league is 5-2, yet somehow sucks.
Right.
Right. Everybody's 5-2, yet everyone blows. Like, how is that? How are the Eagles 5-2 if they somehow suck? We'll talk about that. The Broncos, how are they 5-2 and they suck? I don't think people think the Lions suck, but they're 5-2, so we write about them. There's two NFLs right now, Matt. Yeah. There's all the good teams playing each other over and over again, and there's all the bad teams playing each other over and over again. So you get like the Patriots. Oh, we're 5-2. It's like, well, who'd you beat? Oh, the Titans and the Saints and oh my gosh, wow, Middle Tennessee State and Akron Zips. Congratulations. The Bears are kind of in that same thing. The Panthers are in that same thing. All the little munchkins are facing each other. So they're getting these records like 4-3, 4-2, 5-2, whatever, 3-3-1, like the Cowboys. Meanwhile, Eagles are always facing the Chiefs. Chiefs are always facing the Lions. You know, the Lions are always facing the Buccaneers. You always have these tough tests at the top. So you have these teams that, if they played a normal schedule, might be 6-1 or 7-0. The Bills are different. Forget about the Bills. We'll put them in a different category. But they all look like they're weak because they're all winning by a last-second field goal against one another. Make sense?
For sure. Yeah, it does. And, you know, some teams are really leaning into identities. You mentioned the Broncos. They're finding ways to win in the fourth quarter. You mentioned the Lions. Despite their injuries, they're falling back on the tried and true formula of we run the ball better than anybody in the NFL. We have arguably the fastest running back in the NFL. We're going to pummel you. And you look around the Eagles finding new ways to win. We're going to go in depth on them. The Buccaneers, how concerned should you be about Baker Mayfield coming back down to earth? You look on the AFC side, all the hand-wringing about the Chiefs was just wasted time and wasted bandwidth and servers across America because Rashee Rice is back and Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes again. But you're right. It seems like every week there's one or two showcase games, and then there's a contender playing a garbage team. And we're going to get into all that. And we have a little bit of housekeeping first. If you enjoy the podcast, please go ahead and subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store. Follow me on YouTube at Matt Lombardo975 and leave us a 5-star review. They really do help grow the show. But more importantly than that, if you enjoyed Mike Tanier's blend of analysis and superhero adjectives and comparisons and analytical deep dives, you have to subscribe to the 2 Deep Zone. It's mandatory reading on Substack. And of course, if you enjoy the pod and you enjoy my reporting and the features, check out Between the Hashmarks on Substack as well. But Mike, we have two reviews that we need to read before we go any further here.
That's fantastic. And of course, the rules are, if you leave a 5-star review, we'll read it no matter how badly you rip us. So don't be like hateful or things like that. But if you just want to come after us, we'll read it. If you want to be nice, we'll also read that. So we have two of them now?
We do. And one's from YouTube. One is the aforementioned 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. The 5-star reviews on Apple really do help grow the show. They push us up in the algorithm, make it easier to find. Mike, we'll start with the very complimentary one from YouTube. Donald Varani, 3794, called it, quote unquote, the best podcast, unquote.
Oh, really? Really? Take that, blank check. Take that, Kelsey Brothers. Take that, Mina. We're coming for all of you. We're the best. Numero uno, not just in sports, but in anything. How did this get made? Paul Scheer, Jason Mantzoukas, better. Mark Maron, better. Joe Rogan, we're not talking about Joe Rogan. Best podcast.
Mark Maron's done now. He hung up the microphone, so we need to fill the Mark Maron void.
No, we don't have to do that. We don't do. I've heard about his lifestyle. We don't have to do that. aim for the. We're going to aim for the upper middle. We're aiming for upper middle class.
I love it. Then we'll go into the Apple Podcast review, the ones that really do help boost the show in the algorithm. Vomitos checks in, quote, good interaction. Matt with his enthusiastic takes and Mike with his bucket of cold water every time, unquote.
Bucket of cold water? Are you saying that I'm like the curmudgeonous one in this group? Me?
I think we're both are lifelong cynics. I think when you can take two cynics, as cynical as we are about everything in life, let alone football, this is what you get. And it can be a lot of fun at times.
You were a Giants beat writer for like 6 years. They broke you. They broke you. So you're just in this bubbly place. You're free at last. You only have to talk about the Giants when you feel like it.
And for the second time in 2 weeks, it's the Tanya Lombardo Bowl because we both were on that beat for a spell. We both covered the Eagles extensively for a longer spell. They meet again on Sunday, second time in 2 weeks in an NFC East where, the margin for error, the Giants found it. The Giants found the margin for error in the fourth quarter when they decided to take the foot off the gas against the Bo Nix and the Broncos. The Commanders, we're going to deal with them and their injury issues in a little bit here. But the Eagles and Cowboys, they seem to be humming right along. Some questions for both, but humming right along nonetheless.
Well, the Eagles answered some questions, absolutely, against the Vikings. One of which is, where's A.J. Brown? Oh, we found him. Where's Smitty? Oh, we found him. Where's Saquon? Still MIA. They're trying to find him. The defenders are finding him. That's a problem. But you also got a few answers on defense. Well, what happens if you're short-handed in your secondary and you're facing Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison? You hold on for dear life and you get a win and hope Carson Wentz gives you a couple of balls there. I guess the question is, how fixed is fixed in terms of the Eagles having solved enough problems that they need to solve to go where they need to go?
Yeah, as I wrote Monday in the column in 4 Downs, I really think that what we saw on Sunday might not have fixed every issue, but if it showed anything, it's that they have the muscle memory to be a legitimate contender. They know how to win when they need to. And I think you mentioned about how do you shut down Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. You blitz the hell out of a guy like Carson Wentz and he creates some turnovers, including a pick six. That certainly helps. Are they fixed, though? I think that some of the issues are resolving themselves, and take nothing away from Jalen Hurts. He was terrific. Over 300 yards first time this season, only the third time an Eagles quarterback has posted a perfect 158.3 passer rating. But of the 326 passing yards, 304 of them and all 3 touchdowns went to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. So the question becomes, what happens when you're facing a secondary that can take one or both of them away when Saquon Barkley is a non-factor? And I'd like to dive into that a little bit as well as we go along here. But what happens when a team can man up and take away A.J. Brown or you shade a safety to that side of the field? Or what happens when Devonta Smith isn't the same player that we saw late in that game throughout the course of a game? Their next 3 opponents, passing defenses, the Giants ranked 29th in the league. The Packers after the bye week are 8th. And the Lions, while they ranked 20th, they brought MVP Baker Mayfield back to earth on Monday.
The Lions are going to beat you by scoring a lot of points and putting you in a position where you can't stay balanced, and that's how they're going to take care of you. They're a couple of weeks away. There's a bye in there. You mentioned the Giants 29th. That's not a team that can man up at all against A.J. Brown and Smitty because they've got one decent cornerback in Fly, and you just have to get protection so their front four doesn't get to you. So that's the team you have to beat right now. Brandon Graham is returning. The thing I think he provides, I don't think he provides pass rush anymore. He provides hugs. Yeah. Okay, if he's going to be in there and just be dapping guys up in the locker room, that might help a little bit. And yeah, he can take a few snaps here and there. I don't know. I don't know the answer with Barkley. No one's going to walk through the door who's, Aiden Hutchinson's not walking through the door. Trey Henderson is not walking through the door. Shutdown corner is not coming in to help Quinyon. I would like to see a kick return fielded at 2, 3, 4, 5 yard line, run to the 31-yard line and no penalty. I want to see that before I die. I want to see the Eagles accomplish this before I take my forever nap. Why can't that be solved?
Yeah, and it's when they do try to return it, whether it's Will Shipley back there, whoever it is, it just seems like it's a cat, chasing a laser pointer. Whether it's the dirty ball kickoff against the Rams or some of the issues that you saw in Minnesota against the Vikings, this team just hasn't adapted to the new kicking rule. You look around the league, the Commanders are winning the field position battle because of what Luke McCaffrey does as a returner. You look at the Rams, they're able to flip the field position by the way that they are handling the kickoffs with Cardi. It just seems like the Eagles have not invested the time and the resources into getting that phase of the game as dialed in as it needs to.
Yeah, and I'm curious about it. They brought in this kid Gibson, the kid who fumbled for the Jets. He's an experienced kick returner. Now, they were kicking it directly at him, nice, kickoff right into his hands, he'd get out to the 30-yard line, penalty every time. One of the penalties, I think, was on Cooper DeJean. What's Cooper DeJean doing out there blocking for kickoffs?
Right.
Like, is that really the best deployment of him? I mean, maybe it's like, well, you want tough, all-purpose guys, but there's got to be a better choice. There's got to be like another tight end or something you put out there. It makes a difference. You talk about it with the Commanders. Yeah, if you're getting some drives start at the 35 or 40, all of a sudden your offense is going to look a little better. And if they do go 3 and out, they got to punt it. The defense looks a little better. You mentioned all the yards that went to Brown and Smith. Not only did all those yards go to Brown and Smith, but it was always 4th and 4, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 8, whatever, 3rd and 9. Some sequential drives. That's the next thing the Eagles have to sort of get back to. In the last year, even the previous year, when they got the ball with 6 minutes left, they had a 6-minute drive in them because of Barkley, because of the running game, because of balance. It was very touch and go at the end of that game. We needed that bomb.
No, for sure. And we've talked about this for a couple different weeks on the podcast, with the Eagles. Talk about them a lot because they won the Super Bowl and obviously a big subscriber base to both of our Substacks. But it seemed like the identity that the Eagles were looking for was the big play explosiveness through the passing game. That might still be the identity because it just doesn't seem like you're going to get Saquon Barkley to come around. And it seems like we've talked about the precipitous drop-off of running backs, how quickly it can happen. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to wonder if it's not happening because he's averaging 3.3 yards per carry, which is down from 5.8 yards per carry last year. They're trying to involve him in space. He already has 20 catches in the passing game. He had 33 all of last year. So it's not like they're not making an effort to get him involved. The involvement just isn't as explosive or prolific or dynamic. He's also averaging 2.4 yards after contact, only forced 14 missed tackles. He's on pace for 440 fewer yards after contact than he had all year last year. So the explosiveness, the ability to make people miss in the backfield. I know the offensive line has had its issues and it's been a bit of a revolving door because of injuries. But I think at some point, Mike, we have to have the conversation of, is there a switch that can flick for Saquon Barkley, or is this just going to be one of those years that you hope it doesn't turn into what he's become in the next chapter of his career?
Well, even if it is, this is an offensive line. Variations on this offensive line made DeAndre Swift look good, made Miles Sanders look good. Barkley losing 30% of his juice even should be like a 1,200-yard back if everything else is going well. All you say is true. It's stunning how the yards after contact have gone down. He's running into a lot of defenders. Like, he's getting the ball and there's a defender on him right away. And that's the precision of the blocking. That's schematic to a degree. Some of these guys are getting blocked by Dickerson or Lane Johnson. It's not all, they're finding the weak links on the line. That's another thing that should be solved. And one of the ways to solve that is if you're getting the deep ball going, there should be fewer bodies at the line that should create better opportunities for the running game.
And what's really interesting here is teams are gearing up to stop the run. We saw it a few weeks ago when they played the Broncos. They stacked 8 and 9 guys in the box pretty frequently. It seems like Brian Flores did everything necessary to take Saquon Barkley away and left his corners on an island. And, 300 plus to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith is the net result there. But last year, teams averaged 7.38 defenders in the box per snap. It's only up to 7.46. So it's not like they're stacking the defense all that significantly. It's an uptick, but it doesn't feel significant enough to have this significant a drop in elusiveness and explosiveness out of the backfield.
No, I wonder what the what Jalen Hurts is right to audible if he sees a crowded box is what that is. Used to be this ultra scaled back with Steichen, ultra scaled back. You see a million guys in the box just go up top. And that might have been what we saw this week. Whereas if you saw 6 in the box, just hand off or do a zone read every time. It's not that simplified anymore, but I wonder how it is. Because your solution is, if you can call that check at the line, AJ, just go deep, I'll look for you. Smitty, you do it. Whoever's got the doofus on him at cornerback. That can make a difference. Because then that 7.46 will start going way down.
Right. Couple more bombs. You loosen it up a little bit.
Yes. And I would be stunned if the Giants leave their guys on an island against these.
I don't think you can afford to. Not with the secondary that they have. But it seems like similarly to the Eagles' identity, which is, hey, we're just going to throw it over you. We're going to go big play hunting. I want to get your thoughts real quick on the Dallas Cowboys because I've taken some heat on social media for being bullish on Dallas after that win.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. But it just watching that game, it felt like the unsheathing of the passing game, the way that they drew it up when they traded for George Pickens. And I spoke to a scout about it on late Sunday night for the column, and he said, "quote The thing about those two, meaning CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, is they're both number one type athletes. They're big,
Hmm.
long, fast, and athletic. If you have two receivers, let alone two of those receivers, it's hard to take both of them away." Unquote.
Hmm.
And I know this is me talking now. I know the Commanders were banged up. I know that
Yeah.
there was the collision in the secondary on the big CeeDee Lamb touchdown in the first half.
Hmm.
But it just felt like with Dak playing as well as he's been playing, that when you have two receivers like that, you can do the inverse of running to set up the pass. You can do what you just advocated Philly to do,
Yeah.
which is big play throws to set up the run. Jaden Blue got involved. The Javonte Williams ran wild. It feels like for the first time in a while, I know the Commanders were banged up, so put a
Yeah.
caveat there. It feels like the Cowboys can win on offense kind of any way that they're being given to by the defense, any way they want potentially.
They can. They can also lose on defense to the Panthers, for example. So you have the balance. But in terms of the offense, it's like Lamb and Pickens. It's similar to Brown and Smith, except that Lamb is this over the middle guy. He's like this whole different style of player, which actually creates more dimensions. It's similar to Addison and Jefferson, similar to Chase and Higgins. The Cowboys have that. They also have an offensive line that got healthy in the last 2 weeks, where it was kind of rickety. And they have a very dynamic, very interesting running game now. Schottenheimer brought in Clayton Brown, offensive coordinator. He seems to be doing a lot more with the running game than just using that as like the waste pitch or the changeup. So that's helped these guys like Blue and Williams get involved. I think of the Cowboys as the Bengals.
You
They're
wrote
the
that.
yeah,
You
they're
wrote that
the
Monday, and it stuck with me when you put that out there. And I think the line in your column was replace the Cowboys with where you had the Bengals. And
yeah,
in the Joe Burrow era, I've had the
yeah,
Bengals pretty high, right?
yeah.
So that kind of shows you that if we're following that line of thinking, I might be a little more bullish on Dallas than most people.
Right. And the Bengals, you are often high on them. And of course, they did make it to a Super Bowl a few years ago, but they also often wind up this team. Hey, we're going on a run and we're going to be the team no one wants to play in the playoffs. How are you in that position? Because we lost these games by final scores of 41-38, and we let Rico Dowdle gain 275 yards on us wherever. And I think the Cowboys are going to have a similar season. That's not dismissive of them because, again, the Bengals are often a very successful team, but you're going to have that kind of high and low, and you're going to be on that roller coaster ride throughout the season because they can face top opposition and put 38 on them, but then they could face the Panthers and give up 35, and there's going to be that randomosity. And then he starts to come into who's healthy when, is Brian Schottenheimer elevating them as a decision maker, as a coach on fourth down? Will their ancillary nonsense, the Jerry stuff, become an issue? Those are questions we can't answer right now. Like, the idea to be dismissive of the Cowboys, that's silly. The idea to be like, the Cowboys are the Cowboys. The Cowboys are the Cowboys are the Cowboys. The Cowboys went 12-5 every year for 3 years. They're a team that can knock your ass out of the playoffs.
Spoke to Drew Pearson about it really briefly on Sunday, and he said, quote, the difference for Dak this year is his experience is elevating the players around him. And that experience is pretty good. When Dak is healthy, he's in the MVP conversation. When Dak is healthy, they go to the playoffs, and their defense typically lets them down, or the offense isn't able to match what it did in the regular season when you're playing against a top-tier defense. But I'd argue that from a personnel standpoint, this is one of the more complete Cowboys offenses that they've had in some time around Dak.
Yes, complete offense. Again, when you talk about quality young players on the offensive line, when you talk about the quality at tight end, you've got depth at wide receiver. You got a couple of guys at wide receiver. You got Turpin as a return man, trick play specialist, etc. Very, very good combination. So if you want to roast the Cowboys, you go back and say, you know what? They would beat the Panthers and they would have not tied the Packers if Micah Parsons was there.
Yeah.
So whatever they don't do this year, those are two games that you can point to and say, there's no way. Parsons would have eaten Bryce Young. He would have eaten Bryce Young. He'll be like a buffalo wing in his hand. And of course, you flip the player there in that tie, and that's obviously enough to go the other way. So anything the Cowboys don't manage to do remains a self-inflicted wound. That said, you can't be dismissive. Eagles fans, Giants fans, you can't just be dismissive of the Cowboys. Come on, you know better.
For sure. And, I think that what's going to be real interesting is what do they do going into the trade deadline? Because they have the extra first round pick. Jerry
Uh-huh.
Jones has vowed to use some of those assets to, fix the holes. You could
Hmm.
be aggressive. You could trade for
And that's Rusher.
a Trey Hendrickson. You could go get an edge rusher, which is so ironic and so perfect and so predictable.
Oh God! Oh God! It's like blasting a hole in the back of the White House. It's what it promised to not be political. That was one. That was one. There's a hole in the White House, people. Come on, that wasn't a political joke. Anyway, yeah. How active? I'm trying to remember. The Cowboys have not been big trade deadline traders. The Amari Cooper deal, that was years ago. Like I'm going back a million years. Yeah. We're that was like 3 Amari Cooper deals ago. So
it was like 2 houses. There was like 2 houses ago for me.
right. I might as well be talking about a Drew Pearson trade if I'm going to go back to that. So the thing is, of course, we know our business. Whenever you do a trade deadline article, you have to mention the Cowboys 40 times.
Yes.
Because they have a huge fan base. Mention the Patriots, too, because they could use another guy. They could use another guy, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But you had this in the outline, and you wanted me to give you my top 3 in the NFC, right?
Yes, in the NFC, yes.
In the NFC, because I put out a post on social that got even more heat. Shockingly, this has been like Comet Lombardo week ever since late Sunday night of the NFC hierarchy and the teams that I think are in the mix. And of course, it was after the nightcap recap, which I was drinking the 15-year-old Caribbean barrel-aged Scotch that night.
Oh,
so
wow.
I admitted a pretty big contender for my hierarchy list. But the caveat in the post was, I don't know what order to put these in. I just don't know, because similar to your line of thinking, these teams are all 5-2. They all have flaws. All of them could do what the Lions did on Monday night. All of them could do what the Buccaneers did against the Lions on Monday night. You just don't know right now because nobody's separating themselves. But as far as my top 3 go, I was kind of won over. And again, I tend to live in the moment with these things. I tend to be a prisoner of the moment of like who's hot at the moment.
Yeah, I hear you.
So admitting that right out of the chute here, I think the Lions are the best team, even with the injuries. Just watching what they do, the way they win running the ball. They did it on the road against the Ravens when we still thought the Ravens would be decent. They did it last night against a team that some people thought were the number 1 team in the NFC. They were the number 1 seed going in. The secondary, a bunch of no-names are rising to the occasion. So I go Lions 1. The big Scotch involved omission, the Rams. I mean, you can't dismiss what the Rams have done. If the Eagles don't block that field goal, you're talking about wins against Houston. You're talking about a win against the Colts, which are maybe the most complete team in football right now, and a win on overseas against the Jaguars, who 2 weeks ago we thought were going to run away with the AFC South. That's 3 really quality wins, and they have a great quarterback, dominant young defense. Number 3. Let me find my list here. I think this one will surprise some people. The 49ers.
Oh, okay.
Only because this is stepping outside of the prisoner of the moment cell. If you're doing this with so many guys injured, what happens when a few of them start coming back? What happens when you're not a mass unit anymore?
Right. I agree. Tell me more about this 15-year-old Caribbean Scotch. Is it Scotch in a rum barrel?
Yeah, it was. It's Woodford Reserve, I believe it is. I'll have to post a screenshot on Blue Sky so you can check it out. 15-year aged rum in a Caribbean rum barrel. It's got some notes of vanilla in there, little spice. Big fan. It was the shout out to the Pops. Christmas gift from the Pops this past year. Getting some run out of it this year, especially on some of these recaps on Sunday nights.
I'm starting to really like booze that was made to somehow taste like other booze. I love the Irish whiskey in the Guinness barrel, or the dark beer that was in the whiskey barrel. And sometimes
I'm a huge bourbon aged beer guy.
Bourbon aged beer aged bourbon. Sometimes it's port wine aged bourbon. Another big one that's really good. I'm starting to love that to the point where I can't just drink the beer that tastes like beer anymore.
I know. I know.
Like I'm being
And you
spoiled.
know,
Like,
you've eaten enough with me on the road to realize I'm a sucker for coffee beers. So
oh, you
it's
like the coffee
like,
beer? Yeah.
yeah. So it's like I'm kind of with you. I like my beer to taste like other things.
Let me ask you this, because you're about to go trick or treating with young ones. Does the coffee get Irished when you're?
I'll do you one. It does, but I'll do you one better. There's a house in the neighborhood that
Mhm.
moves. They drag their fire pit out to the driveway, so there's a fire pit going,
Uh-huh.
and they have the candy, and a lot of times it's like the little dollar store like spider rings that the kids can wear,
Uh-huh.
or the little necklaces on the table.
Yeah.
Under the table is the cooler, and in the
Nice.
cooler, two or three different beers and a seltzer or two
Oh,
for the parents. That's one of the first houses we hit because you can kind of sip that the rest of the
mm.
walk.
I'll tell. Actually, I don't know. We're on Substack. Will YouTube like cut us? So I mentioned a cannabis
No,
product. Okay.
no.
Okay. Okay. But in the dawning of legal cannabis, if this was the case to 14 years ago when my kids were young, we would have been trick or treating for 11 hours. That would just we would have walked. I would have just kept walking. And it's like, oh look, it's Pikachu. Oh, a ghost. Oh, isn't this spooky? And my kids, I put them in the wagon so they stop complaining and they just be eating the candy, and I'd be eating the candy. We're lucky in that respect that we don't do that anymore. But yeah, that's a high evolution of the Halloween trick or treat thing when the parents come out and they bring the beverage and the fire pit and a
Yes,
lot of times, sometimes they'll be. We had a guy growing hot dogs, like just a little
that's
decent
awesome.
Peach and Watson. It's phenomenal. The kids wind up playing around there anyway. They have a good time. And that's a good, I like the spider rings too, because if you're like a children's dental care or children's health thing, come up with something like that. Kids actually like those suckers. They also like little cars and things like that. You can find affordable stuff. I get potato chips.
Yeah, my
It's
son loves cars. So he's obsessed with
yeah.
Pixar cars and Hot Wheels and all those things. If there was a house that gave out the Pixar cars, we
Yeah.
might not go to any other house. We might just
But
like walk away, maybe switch out a costume, come back and get another car.
yeah, yeah, your kid comes back 3 times. Those things are really expensive. Like I'll give them to like the neighbor kid or whatever. But it's great. That's the way you do it because we have to celebrate as a community Halloween. Do you dress up?
We do family costumes,
Oh,
yeah,
I,
and this year my son has already gotten his Spider-Man costume, and he's worn it two or three times around the house because he's now obsessed with Spider-Man. My daughter is going to be Catwoman. I'm Batman.
well, perfect.
Yeah,
And your wife is
she's going to
staying
be
home.
Wonder Woman. She's going to
Okay,
be
Wonder
Wonder Woman.
Woman. I was
Yeah.
waiting for staying home to give out candy happily, not getting into a classroom. With boys, I think I dressed up once. I forget though. With boys, the onus to dress up too is less of a thing. My son, who is a student teacher right now up in North Jersey, all of the teachers are going as various Mario characters,
Nice.
and my son is Wario. Wario.
Wario's the best.
Wario?
I loved Wario growing up. A big Wario guy.
Could you imagine? I don't know. You're a little younger, walking into school and seeing the teachers actually dress, not just dress for Halloween, but in like contemporary costumes that the kids would understand.
I know. It's a novel concept. Something. Yeah, you're filibustering here, by the way. I gave you my NFC teams. I gave you an order, which I didn't want to do online. You put me up to this.
Okay, number one, the Lions, just like you, pretty much the same reasons. I'm filibustering because we got almost the same list. I thought I was going to get some differentiation, so it's not that good. Number two, I'm putting the Rams. I thought the Rams was going to be stealth. I forgot that you got in the hot water because you forgot what happened at 9:30 in the morning by the time you were drinking at 11 at night. It happens. It happens to the best of us. But yeah, all the things you say about the Rams, I'm surprised you pissed off Rams fans because I've never met one.
Yeah, they came from all angles, and the thing about that was, look, it wasn't just what happened at 9:30 in the morning. I think I was so disgusted by what the Jaguars did that it knocked that win down a peg for
Yeah,
me.
right.
Because like Dave Canales acted like he walked into a pub, stole the dartboard off the wall, and stuck it in the coordinator's booth and said, "Hey man, throw the dart at this and tell me whether I should go for it or not." The 4th and 2 field goal that they missed was just cowardice. I'm not even going to blame the kicker for
It's
that.
Cohen.
And then
Cohen.
and then to go for it on 4th and 5, like what are you even doing here? There was no rhyme or reason.
Right.
I'm annoyed because Trevor Lawrence doesn't seem to be progressing, even though he has all the talent in the world, and they built a really exciting receiving core around him. They don't seem to be maximizing. So maybe, boy, come at me, Rams fans. Maybe I wasn't as impressed by that win on Sunday morning, but you twisted my arm enough that I had to go back and look at the rest of the schedule and remember, oh yeah, they did smoke the Colts. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, they did beat the Houston defense
Right.
early when they were fully healthy, and they did nearly take down the Eagles in Philadelphia. So you're
Right.
right; they're a good squad. They're not the number one squad in the NFC, but I'm not hanging my hat on beating Dave Canales and his wonderful dartboard
Oh,
from.
Cohen.
It's
Cohen.
Cohen.
Cohen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cohen. The guy with the squeaky voice.
Yes.
Not
Dude.
the guy with the
Oh.
yeah. Dave Canales has many things, not a squeaky voice. No, no,
No.
no. But Eagles are fourth on my list. I want to get that out there if people are wondering. Because number 3, do you know who's number 1 in DVOA right now in the entire NFL?
It has to be a team in the NFC. Are you going to tell me that it's the Seahawks?
It's the Seattle Seahawks. And
Wow.
I'm not going to pull it up right now. It's not compelling journalism, but like they're in the top 5 in all 3 phases. That game last night, it felt like they should have won 41-10, but every time they would strip sack CJ Stroud and the ball would roll into the end zone, instead of getting either a safety or a touchdown, some goofy thing happened, like a touchback or a penalty or some other thing. And then Cooper Kupp decided he was a quarterback for a minute, which was that burn that play for all eternity, Mike McDonald. But Seahawks are a very strong team right now. I can't put them number 1 in the NFL or the NFC, but if I didn't put them third, then I feel like I'm not paying attention. They're stealth. People aren't seeing them a lot. When they're on national television, it's like after the news on the East Coast.
Right, they bludgeon you across the head with how good they are when you do see them. But I'll say this
Yeah.
about the Seahawks: people have asked me, well, why aren't the Seattle Seahawks on your list? Well, why aren't you paying attention to Seattle? It's not necessarily that I'm not paying attention to Seattle.
Right.
It's that I saw how last season ended with Sam Darnold. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know it's a different situation. I know that he has Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I know that there are a couple of really good tight ends there and a really good offensive line, and the
Right.
defense is loaded. But I just feel like in big moments of big games, prove it to me. Prove it to me
Yeah.
that you can, win a game late in the year when you have a division championship on the line. Prove it to me in the playoffs. It's great to put up these numbers, and he's maximizing the skill set around him and all that. But what happens late in the year when you have a game that you have to win? Is Sam Darnold going to be Sam Darnold, or is he
Right.
going to be Baker Mayfield that we saw last night against the Lions? I'm going to keep coming back to that because Baker looked like the runaway MVP, and
Right.
the Lions found a way to stifle him and take that offense into irrelevancy.
Yeah, and part of that was that the crowd noise was a factor. But of course, you're Baker Mayfield. At this point in your career, you should be able to address crowd noise. You've got a veteran team around you. You've been in playoff games, et cetera. You're right about Darnold, but the thing is, what I see right now is they'll be there. The Seahawks will be here. He'll be out there again in a playoff game, I think, possibly at home. And then we get to ask that question again. There's a lot of teams that I don't think we'll get to ask that question about because they're not a very good team. And Darnold's at least reached the point where we're talking about, well, he's going to cough it up in the playoffs, as opposed to when are we benching this guy, which is the normal Sam Darnold conversation from like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, around week 7.
Final 4 Seahawks games of the regular season: Colts at home, Rams at home,
Yes.
at Carolina, which feels like more of an adventure than we thought it would be,
Right.
and at San Francisco in Week 18 for a game that could mean everything or could mean nothing.
Absolutely. No, it's going to be a tough test. They've got a couple of decent wins on their resume now. I know we're bagging on the Jaguars. That's a win. Steelers is a win. It was a convincing one. Let's see where they are in a couple weeks, and let's see who's healthy for the 49ers. I get it with the 49ers too, but then we start getting this. Well, Brandon Ayuk is still a few weeks away. I thought he was going to be back in week 6. No, he's going to be back 6 weeks from week 6. We know Warner's gone. We know Bosa's gone. I'm not dissing the 49ers. I just can't give them that big of a boost right now based on getting guys healthy. And that's the next thing we're going to talk about is that right now, mostly in the NFC, there's all these injury questions at quarterback.
Yeah, and the one that really emerged, I think, could be worrisome is Jaden
Yeah.
Daniels down
Yeah.
in Dallas for the Commanders with the hamstring injury. I reached out to two different sources about an hour ago,
Mhm.
and guys who usually get back pretty quickly, who would be familiar with what's happening with Jaden, no reply. So I
Right.
read into that what you will. I mean, I
Mhm.
hate to read in between the lines too much, but if this
Yeah.
were a minor pull, there's no reason that I wouldn't hear that back right away. So it bears monitoring. It especially bears monitoring in the short term, because the Marcus Mariota experience is not a great one, as we saw with that throw that Deron
Right.
Bland picked off rather easily and returned even easier for a touchdown.
Mhm.
And the bigger worry is, there's a meme going around of Jaden Daniels morphing into RG3,
Yeah.
it's hard to just dismiss the
Mhm.
origin story of that meme, because
Mhm.
the injuries are starting to kind of pile up here for a kid who generational talent. Injuries are becoming a bit of a worry.
Injuries are becoming a worry. This is the second one this season. He is a smaller dude. The number one and number two and number three priorities for the Commanders is to make sure they don't continuously injure Daniels. The things that the Washington organization did with RG3, they rushed him back too soon, and or he rushed back too soon. He went out there on their horrible, horrible field. That's a continuing problem for them. He wasn't himself. He started to get both bad habits, and I think he was getting more and more dinged up, and he just went in the other direction. I didn't get the impression the last couple of weeks that Daniels was going in the opposite direction. He's
No.
without McLaurin, he's without other guys. He was running around making plays. The plays, things weren't going his way. Even in the first half against the Cowboys, he don't play defense. He was moving the ball on offense. They can't look at this and say, okay, Chiefs, Seahawks, Lions, let's get them back for the Lions game. It's a big game. If they have to give up this season, if they have to give up the playoffs this year to make sure that he comes back when he's fully healthy, he's ready, and maybe he's got like some more weapons around him, they should go out there, use Mariota as a punch press, and take that mentality. Because the last thing I want to hear is, here he comes hobbling back wearing the brace. I don't want to see that with Jaden Daniels.
Where you have to take the long view here, right? And it's not just about this season. It's about the fact that you have a quarterback whose ceiling might
Mm-hmm.
be as high as Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. He has
Right.
those kind of gifts. He has that kind of talent.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a really nice job of surrounding him with veterans to kind of accelerate his development into what we've seen through his first season and a half. But if you let the injuries derail that in a season where you're fighting tooth and nail just to make the postseason, it's not worth suffering an injury late in the year that could stretch the
Yeah.
timeline to his effectiveness going into next year, where you have money again, you can continue
Yeah.
building, you can get another draft class in there. And oh, by the way, he'd be fully healthy. I'm not saying shut him down. I'm saying
Yeah.
that if there's a couple more injuries that keep happening,
Yeah.
you have to, as you said, not rush Jaden Daniels back and view this through the career scope, not through the next 3 to 4 week scope.
Right. And if you look at the next 3 weeks, there's a very big chance with Mariota out there, they're 3-7, because it is at Kansas City versus Seattle versus Detroit. And with this continuing problem with Debo not being very healthy, McLaurin, I thought he was coming back. I'm not sure what the story is there. They have to be smart about that. We don't know yet. We don't know if this is a week to week, or if we're going to hear this a 4 to 6 week injury, or what it's going to be. So until then, it is like you had the Commanders high in terms of in the preseason. The Cowboys have replaced the Commanders as that team that's out there in the wind, high scoring, explosive team in the, let's call it, wild card conversation.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, depending on what happens, it could be the NFC East conversation,
Right.
Between the Eagles and Cowboys, and that's a big game towards the end of the year. And look, we might get off the air here, and Jaden Daniels is practicing this week, right? It might just have been a situation where they held him out. That remains to be seen. But the Bryce Young injury is a bit of a different story entirely, given that he was seen leaving in a walking boot on Sunday at MetLife.
Yes. Bryce Young leaves in a walking boot, very tiny walking boot. I'm sorry. There's your one tiny Bryce Young joke. It was a size 7.5, I think. Andy Dalton comes in. It's still Andy Dalton, folks. And he goes 3 and out a bunch of times. It doesn't matter, because Tyrod Taylor was in the game. He was just throwing interceptions, etc. We have to pay attention to the Panthers. It's not silly to suggest that the Panthers are also a team that can be in this wild card hunt right now. I guess the question with them is, how relevant do you want to make? I'll just go over. They're 4-3.
Yeah.
Victories over the Falcons, a shutout, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, a Rico game, and the Jets with losses at 42-13 lost to the Patriots, and Jaguars and Cardinals losses. What 2 weeks, 3 weeks with Bryce Young, without Bryce Young, where does that put him?
Well, you can't lose to the Cardinals and be taking all that seriously, right? I mean, it just can't happen. But
Yeah, right.
I think the Bryce Young injury is significant from a standpoint of, does it derail their identity? Because their identity over the last 3 weeks has become ground and pound, running the football, ball control, make a couple big stops on defense. You saw the J.C. Horn incredibly acrobatic interception. He had 2 of them against the Jets on Sunday. And, what can we do to get Teteroa McMillan involved? Is this the chicken or the egg? Is McMillan making Bryce Young better? Or is Bryce Young accelerating Teteroa McMillan's emergence as a star receiver? Andy Dalton is so limited. He's just so limited as a quarterback. I don't know that you're going to maximize McMillan's big playability. And having him out there, are you now able to stack the box and take away Rico Dowdle and now Choba Hubbard? Are you able to take away the running game, take away what's made them successful over the last month? That's where I think it's relevant for Carolina, because with a healthy Bryce Young and ascending McMillan, a running game that you can lean into, that brand of football can travel a little bit. You're not traveling with Andy Dalton.
No, that's it. And Young is elusive, and he's mobile, and he's a good decision maker on the run. When you see Bryce Young start the moving laterally, escape from a guy, his eyes are downfield. He's looking for Tet. He's looking for all these other, like they're not great weapons, but there's all these dudes. I'll find Jatavian Sanders downfield, or I can dump it and get it to Hubbard in the slot, etc. He can do that. Dalton will do none of those things for them.
No.
And so it will probably be let's try and do a complete ground pound. And as much as they ran the ball, it wasn't so much a ground pound team. Is that they mix in a ton of screens. There's all these things where they're trying to get the 2 backs into the game at the same time against the Jets. I don't know how much of that they get. I'm shocked because they host the Bills this week, and the Bills are only 7.5-point favorites, which tells me, one, that there is a respect for that running game in Carolina, and 2, I guess maybe there's this whole he's day-to-day thing, like the spread hasn't shifted over to it's Andy Dalton guys, or maybe they just don't want to give me a double-digit spread because they know I'll take the Panthers on a double-digit spread, and I'll love it.
I think I'm taking Carolina with the points here, because I love the fact that they can run the ball, and the Bills have struggled to stop the run. I follow enough Bills fans on social media to know that they're in this full-fledged panic mode over their defensive line. And a duo of Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard seems like a recipe for a cover, at least against the Bills in Carolina. Buffalo off the bye week. We'll see what happens there. But it doesn't get easier for Carolina. They go to Lambeau the following week against a pass rush. Michael Parsons has 3 sacks against Arizona late. On Sunday night to seal that win. Then they get a mini bye against the Saints, and then the Falcons come in. Then you go at San Fran against the Rams. So we're going to find out pretty quickly here, right around Thanksgiving weekend, were the Panthers just some fun little month-long journey where they figured out how to run the ball really well, or did they really figure out how to run the ball really well, and they can, throw their weight around a little bit?
Andy Dalton's going to look at Micah Parsons' tape from the other day. He's going to have another fender bender.
That's right. You're alone this time. Hopefully alone in the car this time.
Alone this time. You're not a Panthers quarterback, and I don't want to wish anything on Bryce Young until you have the car accident. And I'm told that the streets around there are actually notoriously bad. There's these horrible on-ramps. That's where Cam Newton flipped his truck, because there's this on-ramp where people are just coming 60 miles an hour or whatever. But I don't want to wish that on anybody. But Andy Dalton could look like, it was nothing. It was just a scrape. My throwing pinky. My throwing pinky's hurt. I'm sorry, I can't go. Who's our third stringer? Is it
this hangnail right now that seems to be like impacting my entire? I'm serious. It's like my whole hand is messed up from this one hangnail. I have a feeling Andy Dalton's going to come down with a similar ailment before that game in Lambeau.
There is nothing more NFL podcaster than talking about these guys with their serious injuries, these massive collisions, and complaining about our hangnails. Like, why is this guy coming back from injury? The team needs him. Look, I can't type today. I can't type my article today because my cuticles are misaligned.
What do you make of the 49ers situation? Speaking of injuries.
Oh, well, I'm impressed by them. I'm impressed by Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones has earned himself probably a lot of money next year for the Jets. I like trolling about a quarterback controversy. I like trolling about I can't say it. Brock Purdy is going to come back, give them more mobility, give them more experience, give them a stronger arm downfield, and they're going to be that much the better for it. That's what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? You look like you don't think that.
I actually wonder if this isn't going to play its way into a conversation, especially if Purdy
Yeah.
comes back and isn't as effective as he was. And, part of the optimism about San Francisco is eventually they're going to get Brandon Ayuk back. Eventually, Ricky Pearsall is going to get back on the field. Eventually, they're going to have their complement of weapons. But a couple weeks ago, I spoke to an NFL executive. This was after the Mac Jones heroics game against the Rams, just asking his read on the situation there. And he said, quote, Purdy is only the guy because of the contract that was a big mistake for the front office to give him. If they want to play Purdy, they almost have to trade Mac Jones, unquote. And I don't know that I agree completely there, because the contract, it's not burdensome. You did the breakdown shortly after. They can move money around. They can get out of it. I just don't know if Mac Jones isn't the better higher ceiling option. If you're looking for higher ceiling versus higher floor.
Higher ceiling. Brock Purdy was leading in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs.
And they lost.
And they lost. Mac Jones's greatest accomplishment so far in his career was beating the Browns in 2021. And also Sunday night, I guess, handing off to Christian McCaffrey on Sunday night.
That was outside the friendly confines of the Kyle Shanahan school of quarterbacking, though. So you put him into a quarterback-friendly system.
As opposed to Josh McDaniels, who never accomplished anything. Like right now, I have to sit and watch Drake May MVP talk on my freaking feed. And I was like, well, it wasn't a quarterback friendly. I know Josh McDaniels left, and then they had the Heckle and Jekyll, Jay and Silent Bob running the offense for a year. But then McDaniels came back. I get that the conversation is valid, but you're going to tell me Mac Jones has a higher ceiling. Don't tell me he has a higher ceiling than a guy who was in the Super Bowl going toe-to-toe until overtime with Patrick Mahomes. That's crazy talk. That's crazy talk.
It might be. It might be. I just have never. I guess I'm guilty of not adjusting my priors on Brock Purdy. That you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it never falls. And you're looking at how much of it is Brock Purdy versus how much of it is the Kyle Shanahan offense. And you see Mac Jones come in, first round pedigree, and you see him executing the offense the way they're executing without Brock Purdy, and you wonder, okay, if he isn't the creaking tin man because of the injuries, and he's fully healthy in the system that he's excelling in, maybe there is a loftier ceiling than Brock Purdy, but it could just be me not adjusting the priors.
Remember how you get Rams fans yelling at you because you forgot the team existed because 10 hours had passed and you had a scotch?
This is going to be bad.
Multiply that by we haven't seen Brock Purdy be good in 2 years. Meanwhile, I saw a successful handoffs to Christian McCaffrey against the goddamn Falcons on Sunday night. I'm being a little, I'm overdoing it a little bit, but the contract is the contract. And if your source wants to be like, I would never have signed that contract, and that person probably signed Carson Wentz. But if they want to do that, it's still an inevitable situation. Brock Purdy will come back healthy, and when he's healthy, he's going to be the starter. And we'll all do this second guesser thing. There's not. If that's the truth is made manifest, there's not a good solution to that for the 49ers.
No, I think the solution is that if the opportunity presents itself, you trade Mac Jones, right? You go get a draft pick for Mac Jones at some point if Purdy comes back and he's Brock Purdy. Right. This is kind of the best case scenario for San Francisco. Either Mac Jones continues to play at a high level, creates this conversation about whether or not he should be the starter, and you ride the hot hand, or Brock Purdy comes back, plays even better, and you go into the offseason realizing, hey, I can turn any quarterback into a competent quarterback. You saw what this kid can do. Call the Jets, call any number of these quarterback teams and try to move him.
One thing, the Niners do have the rights to Mac Jones through 2026 because it was a 2-year deal with a bunch of four years at the end. So they could, at the end of the season, we're fully satisfied with Brock Purdy, which is how I think it'll go. turn around and get something of substance for Mac Jones. And I would certainly consider it, especially in this era where we're seeing the reclamation project quarterbacks have more success. And if you look at that quarterback class right now, I wrote about it last week, I would be looking for another option than saying, "I'll just grab whoever was good in the Belk Bowl. Let's grab him." I wouldn't do that if I were the Jets.
New Orleans Saints, New York Jets. There's a handful of teams that you could look to and say that Mac Jones could stabilize you for at least a year.
That's a good example too. The New Orleans Saints.
And we're just going to stay in that division. Michael Penix and the injury, to me, the reason it matters is because there's a 3-team race of sorts now in that division after Monday night. If the Buccaneers had won and won in convincing fashion, I would say, you know what? It's Tampa Bay's division to lose, man. I don't know that that's still the case.
The Falcons are in this weird, if the Falcons were covered the way the Cowboys were covered, people would be like, WTF is going on here? Because Penix was out there at the end of the game. He was flailing. He looked like he had no idea what he was doing. They had turnovers called back. Then he gets injured. He's hurt, down by 10 points late in the fourth quarter. He's still in the game. A couple of weeks ago against the Panthers, they pulled him. They benched him at the end, and they gave him a vote of confidence, and Penix came back and looked good against the depleted Commanders defense against, I think, Mariota on the other side. They get this huge win over the Bills, but that was like Bijan. I don't think it's a 3-team race. I don't think it's a race, but if it's a race, it might be between the Panthers and the Bucs, because I don't know what the level of confidence is in the Falcons. They do incredibly dumb things. They don't manage the clock well. And I think the big winners in all this are the Buccaneers, because they take, okay, you lost to the Lions, whatever. The Falcons are now with an injured quarterback, and they might be putting Kirk Cousins back there as a statue, or it's Andy Dalton as a statue for a couple of weeks. And the Falcons might wind up tripping over a winnable game in the next couple of weeks if Penix is either injured or in this wibbly-wobbly place where his confidence is low and their confidence is low. They got the Dolphins coming up. Let's assume that's a win. But then you get the Patriots and Colts on the road. Falcons are supposed to be competitive in those games. Yeah. Those should be toss-up type games. If the Falcons are anything like what we thought, if Penix is what they think, we're going to see whether he's healthy or whether he's anything. It's weird.
It's a weird spot for them. And I think that Bijan Robinson is the great equalizer, but it didn't equalize much against the 49ers and Christian McCaffrey on Sunday night. And their defense is really, Jekyll and Hyde it. I mean, you'll have a night where they'll go out and they'll get 5 sacks and they'll swarm to the quarterback. Yeah. And you'll have a night where they don't breathe on Mac Jones. It's just a very weird situation.
It's all blitzing. It's all blitzing with their defense. I know they got the 2 first-round picks. They've shown flashes. Certainly, Abikedi has shown flashes. But if you look at it statistically, they have to blitz still to get the pressure. It's amazing. So if it's Christian McCaffrey running off tackle and catching swing passes, you're never going to be able to blitz. Now, again, against the Dolphins, you can probably do that. Patriots might try ground and pound. I don't know what you do against the Colts in terms of trying to blitz right now, because they've got a solution for everything. You wrote about Ty Warren.
Yeah, Ty Warren, Alec Pierce, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman. I mean, these guys, great offensive line. These guys are all fired on all cylinders. And it just comes down to Daniel Jones is figuring out what you need to do on a given play or in a given week. I mean, Tyler Warren is off to a historic start to his career from a tight end perspective. He's leading all tight ends in receiving yards and 3 straight weeks with a touchdown, but he's just one of the pieces. Jonathan Taylor is just running roughshod, and Alec Pierce is moving the chains, put a scare into 100 yards receiving against the Chargers on Sunday. It's really interesting because I think that nobody saw them coming, but they might be the most complete team in the league, if not for the Lions.
Right. And they have so many solutions. Yeah. They got an RPO game that works. They run the RPO, it works. They do some zone reads because Daniel Jones can run. They work. They get their screen game going. It works. Play action, rollouts, bootlegs, they work. Tyler Warren at fullback and then leaks into the flat. It works. He blocks on that play, on a swing pass to Taylor at work. It's all of these concepts, but it's not like a grab bag. It's not like the Mike McDaniel grab bag. It's all very focused and integrated in a way that it is fun to watch. And again, but going back to that, they're doing that, whereas the Falcons are out there and they're trying to get a score before halftime, and they're getting intentional grounding penalties and clock runoffs, like a level of disorganization with all of their talent that shouldn't be there.
Right. And this wasn't on the outline, but I kind of want to call an audible at
Yeah.
the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Another team that has a lot of talent, at least on the defensive side of the ball, is the New York Jets. And I do
Yeah.
wonder if we aren't turning the broiler up enough on Aaron Glenn. Because, you talk about Mike McDaniel should have been fired this week. You got Mike McCoy was already fired. I watch the Jets, check in on them from time to time on Sundays, and then they aren't getting better. And I know that they're
No.
limited with their quarterback being Justin Fields, who's very reluctant to throw the ball ever. But Garrett Wilson is the only receiver they have. But there are pieces on that defense. Like Sauce Gardner is a top 5 corner in the league. Will McDonald is an elite edge rusher. Jermaine Johnson is a disruptor. They have Quincy and Quinnen Williams, who probably top 10 or so players at their position, if not better than that. Aaron Glenn's a defensive-minded head coach. They're giving up 200 yards passing per game. They're giving up 130 rushing yards per game. And only 6 teams are allowing more than the 26.1 points per game that they're giving up. And they pulled the plug on Justin Fields to put in Tyrod Taylor, which fine. Tyrod Taylor's not much better. He's injury prone. So you're walking a tightrope to the point where you might need to go back to Justin Fields because of an injury after yanking him. It just feels like you're mismanaging the situation. You're mishandling your personnel. You're not improving. It just, Mike, it feels like, I don't want to say Aaron Glenn is definitely a one and done, but he's not acquitting himself well 7 weeks into this thing.
He's not rising to the moment. I don't feel like there's this messaging coming out of this that we're building confidence. It doesn't look like that's the case. The defense, I think defense has played better the last couple of weeks. Part of it is the offensive they've played. I think a lot of their problems is they're always on the field. And the field position is usually a situation. So they're in a no-win situation. If I'm looking at this, and there's a personnel problem as well. Not just Justin Fields, but your wide receiver 2 is Josh Reynolds. And I'm not sure who your wide receiver 3 is. You have to start saying, they got all these Lions coaches, Angstrom and these other guys. Let's just going to run the read option. We're going to run the triple option. We're going to do something here where we're going to do the thing Justin Fields still does extremely well, which is running, boot him constantly, go into heavy jumbo formations, everything, and just commit to this totally. Because if they just said, your high school offense, run on first down, run on second down, run on third down, it would be better than what I've seen in the last 2 weeks, and really from most of the season going up to that, although there's a lot of fourth quarter foot off the gas yardage in there. Just do that. Their number 3 quarterback is Brady Cook. I have no idea. I know I actually wrote a thing on him in the preseason. He's not going to be your answer. The answer is not going to be Tyrod, because you're right, he'll get hurt. So you have to
have an answer. They don't have an answer. And like you said, running the ball 2 or 3 times per series of down, at least you're leaning into what Justin Fields does. At least you're keeping the opposing defense off the field, because there's talent on the offensive line. There's 2 first-round picks playing offensive tackle, right?
Yes.
And you should be able to at least dictate a little bit. And my concern with the Jets is they're 2 years away from being 2 years away, because they don't have a quarterback, and there's no quarterback coming in the NFL draft. Right? I mean, you could go and get Mac Jones. You can go and get whoever you think the next reclamation project is going to be, for a year, whoever it might be. But if you're a first-year coach, you have to get buy-in from the locker room. And buy-in comes from finding ways to win. Buy-in comes from the big moments within games where you can see hope. There's just no hope with the Jets right now.
All right, I just want to share, because I remember I was watching the first sequence of the game. Okay, first play, a little 9-yard, I think it was a boot pass. Okay, second one, 8-yard run, Breece Hall. This is the very beginning of the game. Then a bomb, incomplete. Second and 10, 5 yards up the middle for the running back. Third and 5, incomplete pass, Fields. Fourth and 5, Carolina 33-yard line, so they're in field goal range. They go for it. Ugliest pass to Reynolds. They keep throwing to Reynolds like they think he's Amon-Ra St. Brown, by the way. Incomplete. It was not. It was off target. It was like jittery, jiffy feels like, and I looked at that and I was like, game over.
Yeah.
Game over. But you hear the running plays, the 2 running plays on that get 13 yards. Again, I think it was a little play action boot pass for 9. Why are you taking a deep shot on first down? Why do you think these things will work at this point? Go with what works. And I don't. Glenn, I don't want to just go on and on. And Glenn, he's not rising to the moment. That's it.
Not rising to the moment, and the
Right.
defense isn't getting better. If you told
Right.
me that it was the Cleveland Browns, right, and the
Yeah.
defense was just, knocking people's socks off, and you were
Hmm.
swarming to the quarterback, and you're
Hmm.
holding teams to 22 points per game, and you're losing a bunch of one-score games at the end because your offense is terrible. But that's not the reality that the Jets are facing. Both sides of the ball have been equally bad. Let's move ahead of your circlet game. What do you got for your circlet game this week?
What did I write down?
I think you took
What do we do?
Packers Steelers. You took Packers Steelers.
Packers Steelers. It's the Aaron Rodgers revenge? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Oh, I saw a thing from one of the Packers reporters who has a newsletter, and they're like, the Packers already won the divorce. There's nothing to prove here in this game, and I love the inoculation of copium. If that's not an inoculation of copium, I have a guys, just in case, we're not going to make this about Aaron Rodgers here. Let's not all get up in our feelings. That said, I think that the Packers did win the divorce. I think they're going to win this game. The only reason why we won't get 3 sacks from Micah Parsons is because it's going to be a hot potato ball from Aaron Rodgers. I think there was a little bit of exposure in for the Steelers against the Bengals. But I need to see it. I think I need to see it. The Packers play down to everybody. The Steelers notoriously turn everything into a rock fight if they need to, and I'm curious to see how it really plays out. So that was my circlet game.
It's a great Sunday night game. And, you talk about winning the divorce. I think that the ceiling long term is significantly higher for Green Bay than it is for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Aaron Rodgers or whoever is quarterback. It's kind of like, hey, this is a one and done run at making it happen this year. Well, during the one and done run, they're leading the AFC North and look like the best team in that division. So winning the divorce is one thing, but you might lose the negotiations over the house on Sunday night.
That's it, because the problems and the thing is, Packers fans, you talk about Bills fans, Packers fans know it. The problems keep persisting. They're 4-1-1. They're in the Bills. The Eagles fans who are nervous, Broncos fans who are nervous, they are there. So it's preliminary copium. And going up against Aaron Rodgers is not like going up against, say, Carson Wentz. There is a little more anxiety there as to what it says about you if you don't come up with a convincing win in this.
You could talk about not going up against Carson Wentz. They're not going up against Jacoby Brissett anymore either. I think there's a legitimate conversation in Arizona. Do you ride with Brissett? Do you ride with Brissett the rest of the way? Because it feels like Kyler Murray, at least it looked like this in the third quarter on Sunday before the Packers come back. It looked like Jacoby Brissett was Wally Pipping Kyler Murray.
Right. When the 49ers case, it's like a happy problem. It's like we're a perennial playoff team and both our quarterbacks might be good, and maybe we have to make this decision, and we look good no matter what, because Mac Jones goes out there and looks good, and Brock Purdy usually looks good. In this case, it was an exposure. It was a regime destroyer, whereas like years and years have been placed into Kyler Murray, and he went out there healthy, and he had Marvin Harris and all these things, and he was playing chaos ball. He was playing Calvin ball, and it was awful. And Jacoby Brissett goes out there, and hey, everything's normal. And they're missing guys. They're missing guys on the offensive line running back. Everything's normal now. Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., he catches 2 or 3 bombs a game. What are you talking about? There's something weird here. So I don't know what the solution is there. Kyler Murray might be another one of those quarterbacks that you can pick up the phone and get in a trade in the offseason. Say you're trying to jumpstart a regime. Say you're like, I love scrambling quarterbacks or whatever. He could be the guy to go get.
Could be the Jets.
Yeah, replace Justin Fields with Kyler Murray. The Justin Fields who isn't quite as hopeless.
Tall? He's not as tall either?
He's not as tall. He isn't quite as tall. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, you have a circle game too, right?
Yeah, you're not going to like it. I circled this specifically because of you.
Okay.
It's Browns Patriots.
Oh, okay.
Because, I think that, you're either going to be vindicated with Drake May going up against a Jim Schwartz defense that's number 1 in total defense, that's holding opponents to 173 passing yards per game, holding them to just 21.7 points per game, and May comes back down to earth a little bit here? Or we're going to continue to see the New England Patriots PR department come out with new comparisons to Drake May that get emailed to all of us after he's averaging 250 yards per game, passed for 12 touchdowns at 200. I'm not kidding. There was a post on Blue Sky that went out about finishing with a 135 passer rating or higher, 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, tying Tom Brady's record in 2007. The Patriots are now actively sending this out here to shape the narrative.
His record. This record that we all celebrated about the 130 passing rating and the blah, blah, blah. There will be no vindication. There will be no vindication for me. I'm looking, the Patriots are 7-point favorites. And, Drake May will get 203 passing yards and like 2 touchdowns, one of which will be like a boot pass from the 1 yard line after Dylan Gabriel like panic farted the ball to a defender, and it'll be fine. And he will continue to be an impressive young quarterback, and the Patriots will continue to win. And we will continue to get these emails where we get force fed like we are geese for foie gras about he is the next Brady mixed with the next Josh Allen, and don't you dare disagree with it. And we will keep getting that until I think they face the Buccaneers in like 3 weeks, because that's the way it's going to go. It'll be an interesting game, certainly, but I'm looking at this. 7-point favorites. You're the Patriots. You're a last place team. You're 7-point favorite. That's what, and the Browns are coming off a win. That's the level we're talking about how these bad teams keep facing these bad teams. Bengals get the Jets this week. Bengals get the Jets. Flacco's going to get another.
It's a mini bye week.
Yeah, Flacco's going to get another win, and we're going to hear. I don't want to diss on Flacco too hard, but we're going to hear more about that. Anyway, Buccaneers get the Saints.
I will say though, the Tom Brady comparisons are at best premature, at worst kind of ridiculous at this point, right?
Right.
It is a great situation, though, where you have Josh McDaniels, who was the offensive architect of so many of those Patriots teams with Brady. You have Mike Vrabel, an adult in the room, as head coach. Mm-hmm. You get the offensive line built. You bring in Stephon Diggs. You have Matt Collins as a culture driver. And I spoke to former Commanders cornerback, former Patriots cornerback, current Commanders corner, Jonathan Jones. And he told me, quote, it all comes down to Drake May's ability, his personality and character. Combine all that with great coaching, and it's a great formula for the success he's having. Josh McDaniels is a heck of a coach, and it makes me happy to see Drake have that success this year. Yeah. So from a player's perspective, a guy who practiced against him every day, I think there's a formula in place. It's just a matter of how long does the formula, is it allowed to play out?
Right, and that's the thing. There is a formula in place. No one's doubting that, but the formula doesn't always work. The best laid plans often fail. There's always another step to these, and you know me, I'm very allergic to. Here is the hot streak. Here is the hot streak, and now we have to go from here to here, like up into the stratosphere in terms of the comparisons, which is always a big deal, particularly with these teams with the giant fan bases like the Patriots. And everything you just described, even like the humans practically that you mentioned, they were all there for Mac Jones a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Good point.
Right.
Good point.
Right.
So my circle game worked out pretty well last week, Giants versus Broncos. Maybe we'll have another repeat performance.
That was a heck of a game. And you had another young quarterback that we're learning about as we go along in Jackson Dart. We know more about May than we know about Dart, but maybe we'll get another crazy finish. Maybe we'll get Shador.
Maybe.
There's always a 10% chance. I mean, Dylan Gabriel did not play well last week. He just outperformed Tua. So who knows? Anything's possible.
Mike, what do you got coming up on the Two Deep Zone?
Well, right now you can go and see the truth about the NFL right now. Every team is 5-2, and yet every team blows. And you can find out how much your favorite 5-2 team blows. And I got something coming up later in the week, but I'm only skunk working it right now. What do you got?
Yeah, of course, the column was out on Monday. We're going to spend this week kind of focusing on trade deadline, what I'm hearing, approaching the deadline 2 weeks from now. Going to spend a lot of time working the phones this week, trying to see what teams are thinking, what players could be moved. We're going to work on that probably coming out on Wednesday or Thursday. And, of course, the mailbag Friday, to be determined if that goes out, because some of the things that we would put in the mailbag might wind up in Monday's column, because I'm going to be off the radar for part of Monday because my daughter's cheerleading squad is in the regional finals on Sunday morning. My wife is the head coach. We're going to be at in Trenton, New Jersey, at the hockey arena for the cheerleading regional finals, with a trip to nationals in North Carolina on the line. So I'll miss some early games.
Two things. Congratulations to your daughter. Wish her congratulations. Secondly, she's 8.
7. Yeah.
7. Regional finals in cheerleading for 7-year-olds?
I know, dude. I got my first real taste of this like last week during the first competition they had, and the culture around the cheering was like, what is happening here?
Anyway, I'm just gonna congratulations to your wife as well for coaching, and if you have to make that trip to North Carolina, we'll adjust our schedules and everything, and you'll get to enjoy becoming a travel team parent.
Yes, we could do a live pod from near the off ramp, the notorious Charlotte off ramp to the stadium.
Get your kids into like marching band or something like that. I've had to travel for marching bands, so I can't say that. So there is no good answer. But 7? Oh my gosh.
He's Mike Tanier. Follow him on Blue Sky. Check him out on Substack at the Two Deep Zone. Make sure you subscribe there. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Matt Lombardo. It's at Matt Lombardo NFL on Threads. Like and subscribe to podcasts on Apple Podcasts. Like the YouTube channel. Subscribe there at Matt Lombardo 975. You can check out Between the Hash Marks on Substack as well. A lot of fun as always, Mike. Can't wait till next week.
Absolutely. Take care, and good luck to the little cheerleaders around the world. Wow, that came out weird. Good luck to everyone.